All right, so the last time we were together, this was your assignment that you had to do. If you notice at the very bottom, it says lesson 1-1 complete. That means we have officially finished the very first lesson in chapter 1. Yeah. I'm just going to be honest. It took us a little too long to get through that. Today, we're going to finish lesson 2. In one day, we're going to finish lesson 2. Because the stuff that's in there is actually not very difficult. If you were to open up the book, you would probably feel like the book is going to confuse you some. But I'm going to teach you this new material today in such an easy way that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so simple. Okay? So that's why Ms. Long doesn't really teach from a book, because a lot of times the books can be much more confusing and have much more information than your brain doesn't need to know. We're going to stick with what do I need to know, and that's the stuff that we're going to learn. Okay? So lesson 1 is complete. We're ready to move in to new material, which is now starting lesson 2. There's a total of 7 different lessons in chapter 1. So at the conclusion of those 7 lessons, it'll be test time. But remember, we're going to kind of have a halftime. Our halftime would kind of be like our quiz time. Then we would be about halfway through our chapter. We'll take a break and we'll make sure that everything that you've learned so far is locked inside your brain. So that you don't get to the end of the game and realize that people are completely lost. Okay? That's kind of what halftime's for, what the quizzes are for. Expanded form, which is something that's in lesson 2. This should be something that most of you already know how to do. It was actually located somewhat in lesson 1. Okay? So, I don't think we're going to spend a whole lot of time on practicing all of these, because I feel like if you could do 1 or 2 of them, you could do all 5 of them, right? So kids at home, since they're not kind of in the classroom with us, they might have to actually practice all 5 of them. But if they don't need to do all 5, then they don't need to. We just have to practice until we become good at it. So, and once you get good, then you can move on. Okay? So what I want you to do, because most of us should know expanded form, what does expanded form mean? Max, what does it mean? Okay, so tell me, what would I do though if I was going to expand it? Yes.
If you added, if you separated, let's say you go
Yeah. Excellent, Max. Very good. Way to kind of work your brain to it. You're going to take every single digit and you are going to state its value. Okay? So you got to know place value. If you don't know place value, then you won't know how much that digit is worth. So let's just kind of play with 2 of them. If you can do these 2, then I believe you could do all 5. So I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want you to complete number 1 and number 3. Go.
an expanded form.
Yep, that's what it says. An expanded form. You should be in a new page of your notebook today, or you can kind of pick up where we left off last time. You might want to put today's date just so you can keep things organized. This is lesson 2-1. No, 1-2. Sorry. Chapter 1, lesson 2. All right, so show me, what does number 1 and number 3 look like in expanded form? Wait just a minute. Not right now. Hang on. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think this lost like some paper somewhere. She said I look for 1, 3. Sorry.
You can look on anything over there.
It sounds like a baby, but one place you have like a one part, and then the second part you don't have.
I don't.
You don't know what they're doing.
I remember with college, we made the Spanish tech teacher, I got the ledge tech teacher,
I just know
and
somewhere
look
else.
for Netflix.
Oh, I saw it, I got it. Okay, sorry. Okay, so let's check and see how we're doing on problems number 1 and number 2. So I'm gonna let you all come up, and I'm gonna let somebody show me what this one's, that's what I meant, sorry. Number 1 and number 3. So I'm gonna let you guys come up. So show me what problem number 1 would look like in expanded form. Let me get my sticks, because that's the fair way to do it. I left it back here the other day. Okay, going into the jar, and I pull out 10. Who's number 10? Number 1? Huh? Number 1? Yeah, come on up. But so that the people at home can see what we're doing, will you come grab the marker and put it up here for us? You can bring your notebook if you need to see what you did. Hang on one second now. So Connor's gonna write this. Show us what the answer should look like, sir.
Oh my.
It's okay, you just can't let your hand touch it. $1,000 plus 400 plus 80 plus 7. He's got it. That's where it's on it. There we go. This is expanded form for problem number 1. The crowd liked that one. Very good, sir. Let's try number 3, because that was the other one that we had to work.
I thought you said I was going for number 3.
Oh, sorry. Number 14. You want to do it? Wheel yourself on up here, Mama. Hey. Or hop yourself up here. Please don't fall and break any more bones. Don't break the other layer. Or your belly like you did yesterday. Okay. All right, ma'am. Okay. Here she goes. So she's going to show us what problem number 3 looked like. All right, so she's got 100,000 plus 80,000 plus 20. All right, so I got to jump back and look at the problem because I actually forgot what the problem looked like. It looks like this. I think you might have copied it wrong.
Oh.
Problem number 3 is 180764.
Oh.
You want to hop back to your? I think she did number 2.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is that the one that you did?
I think I looked at that one, then I looked at the one. I think she did the first.
I think she kind of mixed number 1 and number 3 together. I think that's kind of what happened. So we'll just tell the people from home we had a little mix up on number 2 and number 3. We kind of merged them together. But let's write what this one should be. Okay, ma'am? So number 3 should actually be, hang on, let's jump back to it. All right, so the number is 180,764. All right, so let's write that one on our board. 180,000. You got to pick up your eraser. $180,764. Okay. That's all right. No, that's fine. Just write the number. 180,000, 764. Now, write that in expanded form. Just underneath it. So, yeah. There you go. She's got it now. Round of applause for Allie. Good work, Allie. Okay. Yeah, she kind of mixed the number 2 and number 3 together. All right, but this is what number 3 should actually look like in expanded form. Notice how the 0, we didn't have to include it in expanded form because its value is 0, right? It's important that it's there. It's holding a place, but it doesn't need to be included in expanded form because its value is 0. So it's not going to change anything when we add it to the stuff that's already there, okay? Expanded form. Do we feel pretty confident here?
Yes.
I think we do, just based off of kind of what you've done, what you came up here to do. So I feel like we can kind of move on, right? All right, let's move to what would be next. Now, this is something that's slightly new. So take a minute and write the notes for the very top sentence that's listed there, which says, when finding the name of a place that is 1/10 of a given place, you remove the 0. Take a minute and write those notes. You don't need the other stuff, so don't worry about that stuff yet. Just write the thing at the top. If you want to highlight, like how you kind of notice I have things highlighted, if you want to highlight it, go for it. Because highlighted stuff typically means this is important. I don't want to forget this. And when you're finished with those notes and you put your pencil down, that would be awesome. That way I know who's done and who's still waiting. Yes. Thank you. Okay. I think most of you have gotten those notes down, right? All right, now how many of you, after just writing these notes down or reading what it says, feel like that sounds really confusing? Okay. Sometimes words can make things sound harder than actually what it is. So let's start with what we know, okay? Inside of this stuff up here, it says, find the name of a place that is 1/10 of a given place. Haven't we kind of already done something like that? Haven't we tried to find the name of a place that was 10 times something of another place?
Yes.
We've done that. So this is kind of similar to that. I want to take a minute and show you all something, okay? And this is things that, for whatever reason, sometimes people just didn't make the connection, okay? Have you ever noticed how the 4 main math symbols, like the addition sign, the multiplication sign, the subtraction sign, and the division sign, those are the 4 main math symbols. Have you ever noticed how they sort of look alike? Have any of you noticed that before? They do that because they go together. These 2, addition and multiplication, they're partners. They go together. You're doing the same kind of math with multiplication that you did when you learned addition. When you were little, it would have been too confusing for you to try to understand what multiplication was all about. So instead, we started teaching you things like 5 plus 5. And you learned that 5 plus 5 was 10. And then as you got a little older, we learned that you could then add another 5 and then another 5. And when you did, you would get to
20.
But do you notice how that sort of takes up space and takes a long time? So when you got into 3rd grade, you learned, wait, there's a shortcut to this. You don't have to sit here and add 5 in a big long line 4 different times. But instead, you could do 5 times 4. And what would it give you? 20. It would give you the same answer. But it was a much quicker way to get there. And those became your multiplication facts. So, now, in 3rd grade, there used to be these things called mad minutes. Now, mad minutes was when a teacher would give you a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper were multiplication problems all over it. And you would have like 1 or 2 minutes to get it done. Do you ever remember having something like that? Some people loved them, some people hated them. You loved them if they were easy, you hated them if they were hard. You loved them if they gave you a good grade, you hated them if they gave you a bad one. So eventually, we kind of stopped using those because we noticed that they were sort of stressing people out. And so we got rid of them. But what happened when we got rid of those is that some of you then got rid of practicing your multiplication facts. And there really isn't a trick to learning multiplication facts, except for you gotta memorize them. And some of you are really good at your multiplication facts. Like right now, if I just spit out a multiplication fact, you'd be able to fire the answer right back at me. Like 9 times 7. 63. For some of you, you were quick with it. For others, you were like 63. It took you a minute. And that's okay. But we want you to get faster with this. Because in 5th grade, I don't get to teach you multiplication. The state of Kentucky says that by the time you reach me in 5th grade, you should already know your multiplication facts. I'm not going to teach you multiplication. What I begin teaching you is harder division and fractions. And those things too go together. So if your multiplication facts are kind of like, no, not so good, then you need to start practicing them. And that means it's something you gotta do on your own time. So how do you practice them? Well,
Flashcards.
you can do flashcards, which is how I did when I was a kid. And that was the best way to do it. Because what the human brain does is the more it sees something, the more it memorizes it. Like if I said rainbow to you right now, you would all be able to picture a rainbow. Because you've seen a rainbow so many times that your brain now knows what rainbow means. If you don't know what 8 times 6 is, then for some of you it's because you haven't seen it enough. So you might need to do flashcards so that you can get a picture of that 8 times 6 is what? 48. And if the more your brain sees that, then it comes into your brain just like a rainbow is. So that when you see 8 times 6 on a piece of paper, you know that it's 48. Do you think you're going to have to use multiplication when you divide?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think you're going to have to use multiplication when you do fractions?
Yes.
So all of these things build on each other. So if you're struggling right now with your multiplication facts, then everything else that I'm throwing on top is just going to become harder. And we don't want that, right? So when you look at the other 2 symbols that are here, your subtraction sign and your division sign, they go together. Because both of them mean to make something smaller. When you subtract, you're making something smaller. When you divide, you're making something smaller. They go together. If I were to erase the little dot on the top and the bottom of that division sign, don't you see a subtraction sign?
Yeah.
Same is true with your multiplication, your addition. If I twist them, don't they look the same? Yes. We do that because we want you to understand they're partners. They go together. Now, as we move into something like new that we're learning today, like fractions, well, fractions are also division. Let's check out in that example of what that fraction looked like. Maybe some point. Why will it not open? Gosh. Okay. So here is my fraction. Now, on my computer at home, the fraction shows up kind of crooked, slanted. But in your book and everywhere else that you're going to see it, it's not going to look slanted like that. It's going to be straight up and down. So let's look at what that means. Okay. So if I take that fraction that I just saw on the other page, which was 1/10, this is a division problem. We will learn as we get deeper into 5th grade math that this means it is 1 divided by 10. That's what that means. That's what a fraction is. It's division. The numbers just represent where those dots were. Now, instead of having a dot at the top and the bottom, I have a number at the top and the bottom. Okay? This is pretty cool stuff. So if I'm trying to think of what place is 1/10 of a place, what's the easy way of doing this? Well, let's start with what we know. If we had a place that was the hundreds place, and I wanted to know what place was 10 times that, this is the stuff we've already learned, right? I could write it out as a number, and some of you choose to do that. That's your choice. So you could write the number 100, multiply it by 10, and you would realize that the place you would land, Connor G, is where?
1.
The place I would land is where?
This is 1,000.
The thousands place, not the 1,000s, just say the thousands place. So I would land at the thousands place. Now, there's some of us in here who do not need to show those numbers because you have the ability of putting the picture 100 in your brain and knowing that if I'm getting bigger by 10, then it just means I add an extra 0 to my answer, right? So if I started out with the number 100, getting bigger by 10 means I just add an extra 0. There's my 1,000. What if I was getting bigger by 100? How many zeros do you think I'd add, Hallie? 2. We'll just add 2 zeros. Playing with zeros is so simple. So that's what it looks like when we multiply. What's it look like when we divide? Remember, multiply makes things bigger, doesn't it? Well, what do you think is going to happen when I make something, when I do it with division? How's it going to make it, do you think?
Subtract 0.
Who said it?
Sophia.
Sophia, you go get Cheese Candy, very good.
Where?
It's in the drawer on the bottom left side of my desk.
What'd she say? I'm gonna try this.
She said, I said, what do you think is going to happen when we divide instead of multiply? And she said, we're going to take a 0 away. And she's correct. So if we have the same problem, let's say that I have, instead of I'm saying the hundreds place 10 times bigger, instead I say that I want to know what 1/10 of the thousands place is. I'm going to do this the same way, people. For those of you who want to use numbers, what number am I going to start with, everybody? 1,000. I'm going to start with the number 1,000. But instead of adding a 0, I'm going to take 1 away. The reason I'm taking it away, I'm not playing with a whole 10 here. I'm playing with just one tiny little piece of 10. So that means I'm taking something away. So instead of it being the thousands place where I would land, if I take one away, what place do I land? The hundreds place. And that's it. So for something that sounded so confusing, it's actually kind of easy. Okay, let's try one. All right, I'm going to give you a place, and that place, I want you to tell me what it is. 1/10 of. Ready? So tell me, what place is 1/10 of millions place? Now some of you are like, I got it. It's in my head, I see it, I know what it is. But we might have some teammates in here who want to make it a number. So let's be patient for our teammates and figure it out. If you can picture the number million in your brain and you wipe out a zero, where would we land? Xander. Yes, we would. We would land at the 100,000 place. How many of you landed there? Good. That's how you do it. Now that was something that the book would have made sound really confusing. Did it just sound pretty easy?
Yes.
Yes. The only thing you have to be careful of is reading directions. If the directions say to find a place that is 10 times a place, are you going to add a zero or take one away? Add. Because 10 times, that times word tells me I'm growing bigger. But if it says 1/10, that's a fraction. And fractions are what kind of math, people? Division. Division means we take away. So now we have to get rid of that zero. All right, let's practice a couple. We just did the millions. Take a minute and do the thousands and the 100,000. No, you don't have to. Remember, your notes are for what you need to know. So if I'm ever doing something and you're like, I already know how to do this, and you don't have to put it in there. But you can't be like that person in the audience and like, I just don't want to do it, so I'm going to pretend like I know how to do it. And then when I take my quiz, I'm going to get everything wrong. And then my teacher's going to say, well, let me see your notes, and I'm not going to have anything in it. Okay? Remember, notes are there to help you. If you don't need help, that's fine, but then that means that I should see a really solid score on your quiz or your test.
1/10, you division or?
You tell me, James. 1/10. Fractions. Are fractions multiplication or division?
Division.
Yes, so that means we're gonna take it away.
It needs clarification.
What?
Give it some clarification.
Yep, you got it. Yes.
Something that Alex did and helped me remember Alex is one of the top ones we'll have to later.
Yes. Love it. Perfect. All right, so if you're at the thousands place, where are we gonna land? Hallie? Hundreds place, you got it. And Brayden, if I'm at the 100,000s place, where am I gonna be? 10,000s place, so. This is pretty simple stuff. It sounded scary, it looked scary because it had a fraction on it, and that made you freak out. And now you're like, wait a minute, it's just division, it's easy.
That was kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna go easy.
That's why a lot of times you have some people who like to use the book all the time. Miss Malone doesn't really use the book that much because the book confuses you. And I don't want to do that to you. I'm going to keep it simple. What?
Whenever you go learn long division.
It's coming. It's coming.
We're gonna learn.
Do you want to know when we're going to learn long division? Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways on where we are right now with this. Okay. Sweet. Let's see what's next.
How many slides are there?
So next thing that I see, well, not that one, I went too far, is standard form, okay? Now remember, this is all lesson 2, friends, all of it. So when we get through this, we will have completed lesson 2, okay? So, standard form, what is standard form? Mason, what's standard form? Where we write it as a number. We simply write it as a number. Are any of these written in standard form yet? No, they are not.
No.
They're all written in some kind of expanded form, aren't they? So your job is to take a number like this and to write it in standard form. Okay. Now the first one and the last one have these like weird looking things that are kind of tucked around the sides of these numbers. Tessa, what are those things called? Those are parentheses. And parentheses are important in math because in math land, parentheses means that's where you start. That's a starting spot. As you get a little bit older and we get deeper in our book, we're going to learn something called PEMDAS. PEMDAS has a P in it because the P stands for parentheses. It's where you start. So I kind of explain it like a box. The parentheses are kind of like a box, and inside the box is some stuff, and we got to open up the box to see what's inside so that we can get to what the final number is. So let's look at the first one. Okay, here we go. For the first one, it said, I think, if I can remember, parenthesis, 4 times 100
Times
plus
plus
parenthesis 5 times 100 parenthesis plus 9 times 1. Okay, so those are our boxes. Somebody sing, please. I sing. We have to open up and see what's inside each box. So let's keep it simple. Inside the first box, who have I not spoke to yet? Rory, what's in box 1? 400, perfect. 400 is in the first box. What's in my second box? Dominic. 500. And my very last box that I have is what, Lily? 9. So now I found what was in each box. And so now my job is to put these all together into a final number. And that will be standard form. So I could like take these 3 things and I could line them all up and I could turn them into like a big giant addition problem. It could, but that's going to take time. And as we get older, we learn that math is going to be done in a certain amount of time. So we need to start learning how to do some of this math mentally. Mental math. Math that we can do inside of our brain so we can get this done quick. Okay? So when we look at these numbers right here, we got to put things together that go together. Do we have anything in those red numbers that go together? Paula, what do we got that go together?
500 and 400.
Yes, we have 2 different hundreds, don't we? We got a 400 and a 500. Let's put those together. What do I get if I put those 2 hundreds together?
900.
I get 900. Do I have any 10s? No. Do I have any 1s?
Yeah.
Yes. How many?
9.
9. There's your standard form. That's what to look like a standard form. So we kind of pulled what was in each box out, and then we used mental math to quickly come up with what our final number was. So, all right, so I want you to try one. I helped you with that one. I want you to try this one. Number 2 and number 3. Go. Now these don't have any parentheses. These, they've already given you the numbers. So you just have to simply put it as a number. Sure, if you are already done with those first 2. All right, we're gonna actually write the answers to these on the whiteboard. I know our friends from home won't be able to see this, but we'll say the answers out loud for them to hear us. So who wants to come up to the board and show me what number 2 looks like? Let's see here. Mason W, go to the board. You do number 2. Number 3, James. And number 4, Sophia. Okay. All right, so find yourself an empty space on the board to show me what you got the answer to be for 2, 3, and 4. Now remember, these are standard forms. Okay,
So I got number 3. And I got number 4.
yes. Mason's 2, James is 4. No, James is 3, and you're 4. Good, James.
Who's number 2? Hello.
Here.
Who's
So-
number 1?
Jason's got number 2 the way it needs to be. The final answer should be 22,987. He simply took the digits that he saw and he put it into standard form. Number 3, James took care of this one. Now, this one could have been a little bit trickier because we did have some places that didn't have any value. So, James, what did you have to do for those places? Yes. There were 400,000s. Were there any 10,000s? No. So we had to fill in with a 0. Were there any thousands? No. There were some hundreds. There were 3 of them, so there were 300. Were there any tens? No. Were there ones? Yes. So that's where we landed. Okay. If we come over to this side with Sophia's, Sophia also had to fill in some zeros for some missing places. So hers had 3 million, but it didn't have any 100,000s or 10,000s, but it had 9,000. It didn't have any hundreds, but it had some tens and some ones. So the final answer for her should be 3,009,048. So again, friends, if you're missing any of those zeros, your answer would actually not be right. Because without the 0, it changes the number. No, the 0 doesn't give it any value, but it does hold a place, and that is very, very important. Okay. Now for number 5 is a little bit trickier. This one is back to boxes. So I did number 1 with you. Challenge yourself and do number 5.
Oh, Lord.
Go. It's 2:11. I'm going to give you till 2:12. Give you 1 minute. Actually, I'll give you till 2:13. I'll give you 2 minutes. You can do it.
It's pretty easy.
Just because it's long doesn't mean it's scary. Now, you probably can't do this one in your head. I can't. So, for some of you, you might be huffing and puffing because you now have to actually write it out. But that's just part of some work. You gotta do something. Yes, ma'am.
Was this gonna be on?
No. Okay. Max, you wanna try to kind of show everybody what this should look like? Okay, read it out to me, Max, only because we're short on time. So what do you got, Max? How many, first off, in the first box, I have 6 times 10 million. So I gotta open up that box. So what do I got in that box, Max? 60 million. So in my first box, I have 60 million. All right, what's my second box gonna have, Max? 3 million. What's my third box gonna have, Max? 400,000. What's my fourth box gonna have? 5,000. And my last box? Perfect. So now, I could write this out like one big ginormous math problem, but that would be very annoying. So instead, we're gonna do this inside of our brains. Mental math. Here we go. 10 millions. How many 10 millions do we have? 60. So that's gonna be my starting number to my answer. How many millions do I have? 3. So I've used this number because that's my 60 million. How many 10 millions do I have? 3, or millions. So here goes my 3. So I have 60 10 millions, 3 millions. Do I have any 100,000s?
Yes.
How many? 4. I have 400,000, so that one's done. Do I have any 10,000s? No. What do I have to put there? 0. Do I have any thousands?
Yes.
How many? 5. Do I have any hundreds?
No.
No. What do I gotta put?
0.
Do I have any tens?
No.
0. Do I have any ones?
Yes.
7. That's your standard number. 63,405,007. Okay, so now you might be wondering. So Miss Malone, you started class today and you said that we were gonna have a little bit of like homework. Huh? So what is it? Well, here it is. You get to get Chromebooks today. Get your Chromebook out.
Yes.
And you all should have marked your math book as a favorite on your Chromebook.
If you didn't get something,
If you don't have it, I'll come over there and I'll help you get it, but you already should. Now you could always get to the math book because you can go into your Google Classroom, you can find my PowerPoint that I have out there for you, always in your math class. And if you go to this slide, which is slide number 11, you can click the link. But that's going to take some extra steps, so it's a lot easier if you just have your math book as a favorite, I thought we all walked through doing that, so I'm surprised we don't have it. Okay. Oh, really? Okay. Well, then we can come back to it for those of you who did. So let me just show you. When you click on the link to open up your math book, what it's going to do is it's going to put some arrows on the side here. Those arrows are how you turn the pages. But listen, everybody, really closely. When I turn the page, now you can't see it because down here this little thing that I'm videoing is covering it up. But you can kind of see it puts page numbers. Do not pay attention to those. They don't match with your book's pages. Okay? We need to be following the book page numbers. So the assignment is to go to your book, page 6 and 7. And these numbers can be kind of small. So if you click the magnifying glass, you'll then get a plus sign. And every time you click it, it enlarges your screen. And then you can every time you move around, it moves like you're on the page. So if you go down to the bottom, you'll know this is page 7, and then this one over here is page 6. Those are the ones you should be doing. Now, if you go back to the PowerPoint we were on, it says to complete the even numbers. Even numbers are what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. There is a total on these 2 pages of 22 questions, but you don't have to do them all. You only have to do the evens.
Like 12.
So that's like 11 questions.
Well,
That's not terrible. Okay? And some of them, you don't even have to do anything but like say the letter that it matches. This is a checking point. We are now checking to see how you are doing. We are 2 lessons into this chapter. We want to make sure that all the stuff that you've been taught so far, you're understanding. So that's what these pages are. Your assignment is to begin right now working on this. It goes in your notebook because you can't put your answers on the computer. So your answers go in your notebook. If this isn't finished, you will have to finish it from home. So that means you will have to get to your book through a computer or an iPad or something from home, and you will have to continue working on it. Now the other classes, take a second and look. The other classes needed to do workbook page 3 and 4. But because we started late because we had a birthday, I'm going to eliminate that and not make you do that.
thank you.
Okay? So,
You just got us out of homework.
you don't have to do this one. Well, you will have homework if you don't finish the problems on page 6 and 7. But the workbook page, you all can ignore. Kids from home, well, my NTI kids, they have to do that workbook page. But you guys can get a pass on that one for today. Okay? So you should you have time now to start. Well, your math book's right there. You don't need to do that. Just put on that page. On page 6 and 7. Set the start. And then just do that. Well, give it a minute. It's just because so many people are on the computer at once, it's kind of pausing. What?
Miss Malone, when you get a chance,
Yes.
Ella Pool has a question for you.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Addison in the globe.
It's still loading. I'm just giving it a minute.
You might have to close it out. Now that you put it in the paper, you can get to it quick. Yes, I've said that 3 times. Only evens. Now your math book is now sitting right here in that black box. So now, anytime we say get on your math book online, that's, you just click that black box. Okay? Yes, Tessa. Who else needs their math book marked?
It says the website.
Sign your stuff back in. I'll come back to you. Yes. You're at your book. All you have to do is hit the star. And then hit done. And now it puts it right here for you. So now anytime, like if you were to say go to another tab, it's gonna be there for you. So anytime I say go to your book, you just click on that thing. Are you good?
Yeah.
Ready to take that on you? All right, it's got to turn back on, so the light's now back on. Let me go check on Ella real quick. Ella, what's your question? They said, don't get stuck, just kind of zoning out, because then you won't get any All of this stuff should be stuff that you are really already know how to do. Is this was lesson 1 and 2. And if there's anything that's confusing, go back into your notes and use them for help. So if you don't get this done, you should probably take your notebook home with you